Okay, good morning. We'll get started now. Um, the last time I think we were talking about e-commerce systems, and in the context of many other things, we talked about enterprise applications, largely talking about information systems in information age. Today we are going to focus on knowledge management in the information or digital age, and I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, you can.
Okay, very good. I will get started. The first question I would want to ask is, according to you, what does knowledge management entail in the current age, which we refer to as digital age? What does knowledge management entail? But before you answer that question, what is the difference between knowledge, information, and data? Can you distinguish for me, please? Can you distinguish for me the difference in those three concepts? I can see somebody has raised their hand. Yes, Steven.
So, according to me, the difference between data knowledge and information is data is the raw concept or information, but say it's just raw sort of data that you gather first that has no meaning, and then the insights that you derive from it could be the knowledge, and then information could be inferences you make for the future.
Okay. Thank you, Tevin. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to give it a try? The difference between data, information, and knowledge. Okay, nobody else is courageous enough. Yes, who is this? Edwin.
A basic definition a long time ago was information was processed data.
Yes.
You give computer data, then it processes the data, then you get information out of it.
Yes.
But now, when you add the aspect of knowledge,
Yes.
it is information in a particular context.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see what I have put some few things here just to guide us. And that definition is what many people have mentioned, that data has always been referred as two very raw facts, like account number is this. That's a raw data. Information, as somebody has just mentioned, is data that has been processed. It has gone through some process. Could be reorganization of that data, and it could be a structuring of that data, some form of processing. In a way that it provides context and relevance. So when you say this is a bank account, then you associate it with a person, and probably a bank and a time reference. So you're saying this is an account with an account balance of this much in this bank for this person. You have given it, so that is information. Now, knowledge is then information which is combined with experience, interpretation, and insights. So, some people have mentioned insights. So when you say that this is the balance in this account at this time, this for this person in this bank, but this balance was you show a trend, this is the month of November, and you show trends for the other months of 2024, and you can see a trend that the balance is increasing, maybe from deposits, maybe from interest that it has earned. So you are adding other things, other interpretations, insights, and so on and so forth, based on those trends. And that is knowledge. That generally this account is having its amounts increased. And this could be due to increasing interest rates and so on and so forth. It is a savings account. And really, digital technology then is playing a very important role in this knowledge management issue by making the information more readily available, accessible, and so on and so forth to anyone wherever they are with internet access. So information really is the foundation of knowledge management. Of course, information is also based on data. So that's the relationship. So the foundation being information in knowledge management. Then analytics, which has been implied. So we use analytics, and we have tools, technological tools that help us to analyze information and data. And that those analytics then what they give us makes us or supports decision making or enables us to make informed decisions. So we could analyze our account over a couple of years and make informed decisions that maybe we should close this account because it looks like that the account balance is going down largely because of bank charges or whatever it is. Let me meet somebody who is making this for you. Where is it? Okay. So analytics is critical for decision making, and we know that, and we have mentioned this before. And then we have the concept of actionable knowledge, which is basically applying information to solve problems, to create new products, and so on and so forth, which will in turn enable us to act more intelligently, create value, become more competitive. So it is the application of knowledge. So knowledge management involves applying that knowledge to do something. And therefore actioning becomes an important aspect of knowledge management. The other one is collective knowledge. Collective knowledge has everything to do with the shareability of knowledge. And through collaboration, where we share ideas, insights, expertise, to create that collective knowledge amongst the people who are involved in that collaboration. So there is the concept of collective knowledge, which comes about as a process, as a result of sharing. But there's a continuous knowledge growth or evolution and the learning that takes place and adaptation. So knowledge is not static. It is always growing. Data is growing, information is growing, and therefore the knowledge is growing. And as that knowledge grows, evolves, if organizations are using that knowledge, then they learn from that knowledge. And then they adapt. And this is the concept of AI, being able to learn from data, from information, and being able to adapt accordingly. And therefore organizations are beginning to adopt AI applications so that they can make use of this learning and adapting to new knowledge that gets created. Then digital repositories of knowledge. So this knowledge is stored in IT platforms. It is accessed through IT platforms. It's shared through IT platforms. You can search, you can organize it via IT platforms. So we have digital repositories of knowledge, and this is what tools like AI solutions will tend to have access to. But at the end of the day, there are many issues that arise out of knowledge management, and therefore, as we create knowledge, as we use knowledge, issues of ethical nature, of privacy nature, will come up, and this was the issue that we were discussing in assignment 1. And there we have given an example of AI where we have issues of bias, where we have issues of privacy, fairness, transparency, and so on and so forth. So there are ethical, privacy, and even security concerns when it comes to accessing, using knowledge that has been created in organizations. So this is what we wanted to discuss. Do you have any other thoughts about what else might knowledge management, KM, entail beyond what I've shared? Okay, nobody seems to want to share anything. So how can we manage then in this knowledge in this age? Any thoughts about how we can manage this knowledge? Now we know the difference between knowledge, data, and information, and what it entails. How do we manage this knowledge? Any takers? Okay, let me go through some issues here. One is we need to document this knowledge. And this documentation is normally in a digital format, using information systems like ERPs, AI solutions. But even in documenting, accuracy, currency, relevance are important considerations. And of course, a lot of the times this is a digital documentation. But that does not necessarily mean that you can't create knowledge using manual ways. We always created data and information using manual methods. But now with technology, we can capture that information digitally, organize it, categorize it, and make it more efficient in accessing it and retrieving it. The other consideration is sharing knowledge. We share knowledge through many tools, IT tools, whether it is collaboration tools like Google Meet, this one, big blue button, which was being pushed by Kenneth. I don't know how many people used big blue button, but it just behaves like Google Meet or all these other platforms. And other knowledge sharing platforms like webinars, digital workshops, which enable us to communicate, to share information, knowledge, and even collaborate as individuals, as teams, like now between me and the class, and between organizations. So knowledge shareability is an important considerations in knowledge management. The other one is the structuring of knowledge, whether it is through classifying the information that we have by tagging it, expressing it visually, like org charts and project charts and all kinds of visual illustration of the information that we have. And then adding metadata to files so that we can be able to quickly search for it. And that people can be able to easily retrieve the information that has got metadata. So structuring knowledge is an important consideration in managing knowledge. That then enables access and search. And when you use all these Google tools for searching, we're making use of the metadata to be able to quickly get the information that you need. The other issue is applying knowledge. Like for example, I've given the example there, when you're doing your 4th-year project, we ask you to look at published knowledge in knowledge bases. And we call that literature review. We tell you to look at literature review, what has been written about the system that you want or the problem that you want to solve with your project. At master's level, it becomes even more serious at PhD level. So that when you are doing your project, you are familiar with what has been done. So you're accessing knowledge that has been deposited by other people in knowledge bases. And when you do that literature review, you have insights about what problem has been solved, how it was solved, and then it informs you how then should you approach the solution of that problem in the context that this is what has been done by others and this is where the gaps are. Of course, documenting knowledge practices, best practices, project implementation, like for example, in many organizations, project management is an important consideration so that you can be able to implement your projects on time, within budget, and meet the user requirements. And then at the end of the project, you do an evaluation of what worked, what didn't work, what did we learn. And those lessons then are used in future projects to avoid mistakes, to optimize processes. So we are making the past knowledge of project implementation actionable in future decisions. So we apply knowledge that we have accessed from previous projects, from previous work that has been done by other people in literature review, and so on and so forth. So that is all about applying knowledge. So applying knowledge is an important consideration in project management. Then preserving knowledge. So knowledge, as I mentioned before, is not static. We have periodic review, we have periodic updates, and sometimes we archive knowledge that is deemed to be outdated. so that the knowledge base we have remains relevant and accurate. We are versioning tools. These days we do a lot of collaboration, online collaboration. And therefore we need to be able to track changes that have taken place in the documents. We need to version those documents to ensure that when people access the knowledge or the information that you have, they have access to the latest versions that have been updated and the most accurate. You don't want people to repeat. If, for example, you are collaborating, you don't want people to repeat what's already been done. So preservation of knowledge is another important consideration. And then securing knowledge. We don't want this knowledge to fall into the wrong hands. So we use identity and access management tools and systems to ensure that sensitive information is only available to those who are authorized to have access to it. And therefore, we need to protect any data that we have through those systems, through encryption, and thereby ensuring that we are compliant with relevant data privacy regulations. And we create, at the end of the day, we create trust in the data, in the knowledge that we have or we have stored in our knowledge bases. And if you are an organization that is highly regulated, you can be fined by your regulator for if you have not secured your knowledge and you have unauthorized people having access to very sensitive data about your customers. Those are the few items I came up with: securing knowledge, preserving knowledge, applying knowledge, structuring knowledge, and sharing knowledge as important considerations. Any other considerations in managing knowledge in the current age?
Can you talk about creating knowledge?
Yes, creating knowledge. Yes, we creating knowledge is an important part. Didn't I mention that? Documenting it is part of the creation. When say we capture the information and data through digital systems, information systems. So I think it can be captured there. I see another hand. Edwin.
What about integrity in the aspect that whatever information that is captured by the system and then presented to the end user, there should be integrity in the information in the aspect of during the processing of the information from the point whereby it is just a data input to an export to a user. There should be integrity throughout the whole cycle of the capture and the presentation. For example, if we are talking about results that just ended in the UK, we want
in the US.
in the US. Sorry for those who are for Harris, but anyway, we want to have. Is it an aspect that there should be integrity in the aspect that whatever data the user gets should be the correctly processed data?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so integrity of the data, the information, and the knowledge is critical. Thank you very much, Edwin, for that input. Any other? Yes. Who is this? Start talking. You put down your hand too fast.
Okay, I also think that the information or rather the knowledge that we are using, there should be a clear mapping of where the knowledge is coming from. So that way, you're able to like easily locate and like have some sort of accountability. So where are we getting this knowledge from? And we can also, that should also help us to when we are sharing the information, because we know the source. So we have to map information from the source.
Okay, okay. Credible sources, yeah, is what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, the source of the knowledge. Yeah.
Credible sources. So, like for example, when you are doing your literature review, you must be sure that you are getting that knowledge from credible sources, because there's a lot of fake information out there, and therefore credibility is important. Thank you very much, Immaculate. Any other? Okay, we move to another issue, which is what are the enablers for knowledge management? Can you think of anything that enables knowledge management? Any factor that enables knowledge management?
Acceleration of hardware technology.
Acceleration of hardware technology, because this knowledge is managed through technology, isn't it? So the development in technology is definitely an important matter. Anything else that enables that? That's correct. Thank you.
Here, knowledge management and policies, the policies and strategies for that.
The policies and strategies of an organization. Yes, that is correct. We need to have supportive policies and strategies for knowledge management. Anything else that is an enabler?
We have widespread network infrastructure, even getting to satellite internet, allowing for
Yes.
access of this knowledge in even remote areas.
Yes, that is correct. That falls within the broader issue of technology, whether it's developing technology or the technological infrastructure that you create. Anybody else?
I think automating tasks can make it easier to get knowledge from
Automation.
Yeah.
Again, within the context of technology or technological infrastructure. Let's look at, I had summarized a few points. One is IT infrastructure, which many people have mentioned, whether it is software that we use, networks, tools that we use, like for example, for collaboration, data analytics tools, AI, and so on and so forth. All those about digital infrastructure, IT infrastructure. Then the culture of the organization. Organizations will tend to have core values. We saw this during our strategy development topic. So if you have values that encourage knowledge sharing, that encourage trust, that encourage openness, all those kind of values will help employees to be able to share knowledge. So organizational values are important. We say that organizational values or core values are a very big component of organizational culture. But beyond values is the recognition and rewards. So those people who exhibit good knowledge management behaviors, like knowledge sharing, should be rewarded. At the end of the year, when you are announcing awards and rewards, you should recognize if knowledge management is an important component of your organization, you should be able to reward people who have exhibited good knowledge management behaviors. And this would act as an encouragement to other employees to also exhibit that kind of behavior, because that behavior is rewarded. And therefore they can participate more actively in knowledge management initiatives. Leadership and management. In 316, we distinguished between leaders and managers. And these are very important when we saw that leaders and managers are the integrator of everything within the organization. So their vision, their commitment, their championship of knowledge management is critical. Because knowledge management would not take root if it is not supported from the top. Active participation in knowledge management processes, whether it is capturing knowledge, exploiting that knowledge for decision making, etc. Senior leadership and management, or leaders and managers must be involved and be seen to be actively involved in knowledge management processes. Support for knowledge acquisition, knowledge sharing, and continuous learning. So leaders and managers are very critical enablers of knowledge management. The other one is there are so many things within the organization. You can see almost everything that we have said is a component of an organization can be enabler, like processes is another one, which is an important component of an organization. So clear and well-defined knowledge processes, including the process for version control, periodic reviews of knowledge and updates. So those processes must be very well defined, part of the standard operating procedures. Should feature some knowledge procedures or knowledge management procedures. The structure of an organization. Do you have knowledge champions or knowledge management champions who advocate for knowledge management practices and therefore in turn promote and reinforce those processes within the organization? So do you have people who are responsible for knowledge management? Less rigid structures that encourage cross-functional collaboration to allow for knowledge sharing. So what structures do you have that allow for collaboration across the different structures of the organization? Can engineering be able to share data with IT, with manufacturing? Do you have a structure that enables that form of collaboration? And we saw that in 316 and the role of structures in ensuring that there is collaboration across the organization. So collaborative mechanisms that exist within the structure or mechanisms of an organization. And then people. People are an important part of knowledge management. Do you have training programs focused on developing skills in knowledge management? Do you have mentorship and coaching programs to facilitate transfer of knowledge from those who are more knowledgeable to others who do not have the same level of knowledge? So do you have senior people who are mentoring others on issues of knowledge management? What strategies do you have to retain knowledgeable employees? Because knowledge might not exist in your knowledge basis. Some of the knowledge might exist in people's minds, in people's heads. And therefore, if there are people who are very knowledgeable, there are some people who are almost synonymous with an organization. If those people leave, they leave with a lot of knowledge. So what strategies do you have to retain those kind of people until you translate their knowledge in their heads into your knowledge basis? And of course, with respect to people, allowing people to be able to have the opportunity to provide feedback on the accuracy, on the usefulness of the knowledge basis or the knowledge that you have within the organization. So people are a very important component of enabling knowledge management. Then policies, somebody had mentioned about policies. Policies, just like procedures and structure, are important. So clear policies on knowledge management, how you capture knowledge, how you document, how you share, and so on and so forth. To prevent the loss of information, of knowledge. And finally, security. Knowledge access protocols need to be set up to ensure only those people who have the right to access information can access the information. Any other enablers that you can think of? Somebody who seems to want to come in, but they are coming in too late. I will not admit them. Any other enablers beyond those that I have highlighted? You had mentioned some of them. So we move to the next question. The final question that I want to ask them is, do we have challenges in knowledge management? What are those key challenges in managing knowledge in the digital age? What challenges exist to manage knowledge in the information age? Any thoughts?
There's a large number of data to process.
The large number of what did you say?
There's a lot of data to process nowadays.
Yeah, but what is that a problem? Is that a problem? We have tools to process that data. Is that a problem? Unless you don't have the tools.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have the tools, yes. It can be, if you have a manual way of processing data, information, knowledge, then it becomes a challenge. So the lack of automated tools is probably a challenge. Yeah? Thank you, Roman. Anybody else? Kevin?
I'd like to say aligning yourself to policies and acts that have been set within regulatory frameworks.
Yes, compliance is could be a challenge. Compliance to regulatory frameworks could be a challenge, whether it is security of data or whatever it is. We have seen several organizations being fined for not complying with data protection regulations for the data in the Data Protection Act of 2019. Any other challenges?
Can I say maybe what Roman trying to mean is information overload, and I think that leads to maybe the quality and relevance of the information. Perhaps that's how he wanted to put it.
You can ask him whether he agrees. Roman, do you agree with what Alex is trying to modify your contribution?
Okay, I guess what I was trying to say was, I guess it was a combination of both your points. If an organization doesn't have the tools to process that large volume of data that's coming in, could cause an issue.
Yes, could be an overload.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tevin says also tagging the large amount of data is tedious. Yeah. Yes, Edwin.
I just saw a post yesterday. Somebody was saying in the just concluded USA elections, they were able to calculate 160 million votes within 5 hours. and in Kenya it takes us 5 days to count about 3 million to 4 million votes. I don't know. This clearly points out the aspect of having the right tools or compute power. Maybe we can, I don't know.
Yes, yes, that is correct. That is correct. Yes, we could announce our elections in a couple of hours from the time of finishing. We normally finish at 6 p.m. Before midnight, we should be able to, if we have the necessary tools, to be able to announce the winners, and so that we don't have to wait for 3 days, sometimes a week, to know some of the results, which is not very nice. But sometimes it is not the lack of tools; it is the other manipulations human beings want to do to shift the results somehow, which is a serious human challenge. Don't be cheated. It also happens in the U.S. There was a couple of elections ago that there was rigging. Was it in California? There was serious rigging.
Yes.
There was serious rigging in one of the states. I think it was California.
Yeah, for JFK.
Yes. Yeah, very good. It looks like Edwin has been following these American elections very seriously. Very good. I hope you will follow ours very seriously. Maybe develop
No.
some of the tools we can use to make sure that we can announce the elections immediately.
Yeah, actually, I was following it and just trying to compare IEBC and how we do it in Kenya versus how it is done in America. I think as computer scientists, we should step up to ensure in future we will have very credible systems.
Yes, having credible systems is a first step. Then you have to deal with the human human aspects, a people aspect, which are even more difficult to deal with. So this is when you realize technology there's a limit to how much you can use technology, but it's a critical first step. Do you have the right tools to do the various processes in elections? Whether it is the registration of voters, is counting the votes, is transmitting the votes, and so on and so forth. Those are important considerations. There was one time I was asked to check before the elections. I can't remember which one. It's either 2012 or 2017. I was asked to audit the systems to check whether there is integrity in the systems. And when a guy called Mohano was killed, was he called Mohano? Mohando. When he was killed, I chickened out because I thought, I could come up with very serious issues and also face the same fate. So I chickened out. But I had set up a team to do the various aspects, to evaluate the infrastructure, the data communications infrastructure, and all the other things within the technological ecosystem. Yes, Stephen.
I have a question based on what you've said.
Yes.
So in a country like ours, where we are developing,
Yes.
and we are getting to acquire more knowledge, so
Yes.
is it a burden on like now for your case, you're an expert in information system. Is it a burden on you to be given such a role, and then you have to bring yourself to a moral quandary where you ask yourself, should I report the truth, or should I report 99% aesthetics and then 1% the truth to keep yourself safe? That's just something I wanted to find out from someone who's well versed.
Yes, it is always a dilemma you have to deal with, and it depends on where your values are. So when you go and find that there is something that is wrong that has happened, then you ask yourself, do I bring this to the fore? Or do I just gloss over it and turn a blind eye on it? And if you know the consequences of this, then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to live with the consequences of not bringing this to the fore? So those are moral issues you have to deal with as an information systems professional when you go out there, and you'll be faced with it in your own organization. You can see a system which has been procured. The system, you can tell that this system is not appropriate for the organization. It doesn't have the right functionality to meet the business needs of the organization. But you are probably powerless to influence the procurement of such a system. But you might have a platform where you can be able to say yes or no, or you can be able to voice your concern about the system, whether it is taken into account or not. So we will have all these kind of issues. When I was dealing with, when I was in the sector working group, there was a huge push by interested parties to change the Data Protection Act for selfish reasons. And I rejected it. I said, no, the independence of the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is critical. And I stood my ground because the people who wanted to change that act were being selfish and wanted to reduce the power of the commission for their own interests. And they did not offer any serious reason why the act should be changed. And therefore I said no. I put my foot down and said no. And the rest of my team members, it was close to 60 people. I was actually 60 people from all kinds of professions. So we stood our ground and said no. However powerful you are, we said no. And we put our own reasons for why this should not happen. So you'll be faced with those kind of situations many times. And it will depend on where you stand and whether you can be able to push. Fortunately, we were able to push our reasons, and although they were not accepted, we put it in the report. So be ready to be faced with those situations. Don't think it's a walk in the park. Influencing organizations, influencing national issues. It's not easy because human beings are very complex animals, and because they pursue their own interests. So everything will not be straightforward. I hope I have answered your question, Tammy.
Quite well.
Mm,
Thank you.
very good. We'll move to another part. The last thing that I'm talking about is what are the challenges? What are the challenges in knowledge management? What are key challenges in knowledge management? Any challenge that comes to mind?
Yes, perhaps we could say that rapidly changing knowledge, like how it's easily changing. So maybe by the time you actually acquire the knowledge, it's already outdated.
Yes, rapidly changing knowledge. Yes, anything else? Anything else, any other challenge? Okay, let me go through a number of challenges that I had cited. One is silos, knowledge silos. When we have fragmentation, knowledge fragmentation across the various departments of an organization, fragmentation between teams, between individuals. Therefore, it becomes very difficult then to access information because of that fragmentation or because of those silos. And actually, when we look at, when we start talking about data in general, and when we are looking at the whole question of data in, think about the reforms that should happen in Kenya, we saw that data is in silos in government. The data in health does not communicate with the data in other parts of government. In the Ministry of the Interior, where you have passport data, does not communicate with the data in education. The data we hold about you guys, you know, you are the same person who is going through an education, who goes to hospital, who gets a job in another organization, and so on and so forth. So we should be able to track you wherever you are. But that data, there is no way of integration. I proposed long time ago, around 2012, in the first ICT master plan, that we should have a digital system where we track, which integrates and tracks everybody from the time they're born, time they go to school, the time they go to they go to university, they become eligible to vote. All these registries we have, whether it is registry on ID, passports, birth registry, marriage registry, and all these other things. For example, ID. If we have accurate data about birth, when people were born, when you turn 18, an ID should be an automatic generation. It is generated automatically. And when an ID is automatically generated from the system, then you become registered as a voter. And therefore we can derive the voter registry automatically from the same system. We can issue IDs, and you are given a notification to go and collect your ID, or you're even given a virtual ID. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. You don't have to go and collect it from a chief's office or somewhere. It could be a virtual thing. And if you need to collect it, you can collect it from your nearest outlet, wherever it is. A shop near your town, which has got the authority to be able to, an outlet where you can be able to collect that. So the silos is a big challenge, and it's a big challenge in many countries. In our country, it's a huge challenge. How to integrate all those silos is a huge challenge, and likely because this has been created by the laws. The company registry, where we register companies, where you will register your startup, is created by a law. The people who deal with IDs, passports, they are created by another law. Agriculture is created by another law. Health by another law. And therefore, if we are going to integrate, we have to start thinking about the legal frameworks and get those integrated somehow. Because people hide behind those legal frameworks. I have been given this mandate by this law which established this function in agriculture. And therefore, who are you to ask me to give you information? So that fragmentation is a huge, huge challenge. It's a huge challenge because data now is one of the most critical resources that we have. And we have these silos within our nation, within our organizations, and it becomes very difficult. It's easier to solve them within organizations, but a huge challenge to solve it at a national level. So silos, resistance. Resistance is something else. When people are reluctant for whatever reasons to share knowledge, when we came up with open data during the time of Kibaki, open data, and there was an open data platform where ministries, government agencies were supposed to share data, to share information, but they refused to share that information for whatever reasons. They were reluctant to share the information and related knowledge. So it became difficult, because one of the things we wanted to, or one of the objectives was this knowledge which can be shared without violating the data protection legislation. If it is anonymized well enough, innovators like you guys can go in and use that data to create new products. That was one of the envisions in creating open data. But people are still, even up to now, we create the concept of open data. You will see a lot of resistance to sharing data and information. And this then becomes a challenge. And it is something that seems to be a challenge everywhere. In all the countries that have been, data is a big challenge. And sharing that data is a big challenge. People will resist for whatever reasons. Quality and relevance, maintaining that is another challenge. Ensuring that data, information, knowledge is always accurate, relevant, up to date can be difficult. Especially if that knowledge, like somebody says, is being generated, a lot of knowledge is being generated rapidly. And therefore, if we can't maintain the quality and relevance, then decision making becomes a challenge also. And then we'll erode the trust that we have in our knowledge management system. So maintaining quality and relevance then is a challenge. Capturing tacit knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge that is in people's heads because that person has been at the core. I went to another bank, and there's one guy who was CTO and CIO and almost chief strategy officer, and he seemed to understand everything about the organization. He seemed to be at the center of every piece of information. Now, you can imagine if that information is not captured somewhere in a knowledge base in that organization. There is a risk if that person leaves the organization, dies, or whatever it is, then that knowledge disappears with that person. So that is always a risk of losing valuable information through people who have that knowledge in their minds, and that knowledge the organization has not had an opportunity to pick that information and make it an official part of its knowledge base. If you have inappropriate technology tools, knowledge management tools, technology, and if those tools are not integrated with existing or other systems in the organization, then that becomes a huge challenge. Just 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. I attend to something. Yes, back again. So, inappropriate technology is another challenge. And the information overload that was mentioned by other people. We are overwhelmed by the huge amount of data and information that is being produced. And that can reduce your productivity if there are some people who can't manage their productivity because they're distracted by too much information, particularly in social media. And therefore, organizations must find a way of ensuring that people are not overloaded by the information that is produced. And finally, issues of knowledge security. How do we handle sensitive data? Particularly when you're dealing with customer information, intellectual property, regulatory requirements. The risk of this security issue can be dire. Because if you don't comply with data privacy regulations, like our data protection regulations, it can lead to you being sued for all kinds of things, data breaches, even fines by the regulator. And recently, for example, the financial services sector, the CBK increased the fines for non-compliance, such that the fines are very punitive. So organizations don't want to mess around with, or banks don't want to mess around with security issues or compliance. And this kind of insecurity issues can lead to loss of trust in the organization, in the reputation of the brand that organization has. So those are some of the challenges. Any other challenges that we have not covered? So that is all. I had given this assignment 4, and I've seen a few people have worked on it and submitted. Let me just go to the Google Classroom to see who was submitted and who was not submitted. Yes, assignment 3, I have only 11. I think I had captured about 15 people. I put a deadline for November 15th, which will be next week. Friday next week, I think. Yeah, Friday next week. As the deadline for submission of that work. I think assignment 1 and 2 had already been done by those who are supposed to do it. Assignment 4, I have 5 people who have submitted. I put November 22nd, which is 2 weeks from now, or from tomorrow, to be the deadline for that. And this was for everybody else who had not done assignment 1 or 2 or 3. It is the last assignment. Didn't want to create a 5th one. So make sure that those who have not submitted assignment 3 do that by November 15th next week. And those who are the rest who have not done 1, 2, or 3, do assignment 4 and submit by November 22nd, which is in 2 weeks. So next week there might be a challenge. I will be in a time zone which might be difficult for me to do anything. And therefore we will not have lectures next week. So please read around the issues we have been discussing. There's a lot of information that you have. I hope you don't get overloaded. If you have not done your assignments, use that time to do your assignments. And then we will see you the week after to continue. Any questions, comments? Yes.
Do you have experience with information systems that capture indigenous knowledge? I was thinking around museums and archives or any heritage sites in Kenya.
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
One of our colleagues, Professor Modoni Masinde, did a paper on indigenous systems in is it in agriculture? No, not in agriculture. Is in climate change. Like for example, predicting rain. Like now it's supposed to be a rain season. There are indigenous systems for doing that.
Indigenous knowledge on weather.
On weather, yes. You have seen the paper.
I've found it.
You found it. Yes, yes. She was one of our members of staff. She was one of the first students in computer science. But after she finished her PhD in Cape Town, University of Cape Town, she stayed back in South Africa, and she's still there. She's a professor there. Yeah, she did that. If you are interested in indigenous knowledge, check whether she has done anything else on indigenous knowledge. There's very little that has been done on indigenous knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's the project we are doing for ICTs. So I just wanted to see if you had experience.
Oh, okay, no, not directly myself. Edwin?
Mine was just to ask for. It's not really directly linked to what the today's lecture, but it's within the same scope. I was part of some hackathon team that was selected to be part of doing AI integration in an existing insurance system. So I just wanted to get an expert professional opinion, and also maybe my classmates can also at least chip in. There is the aspect of integrating AI, and there has been a bit of misunderstanding between me and some of the members in the aspect of I am a believer that if you're developing an AI system as a computer scientist, you should develop it from an angle whereby you should not focus on relying on existing AI models to rely on them to do the AI for you, so that you'll be just pushing data to the AI models like ChatGPT, getting a response from ChatGPT, then presenting it within the system. I was of the idea of developing these models locally, having local servers and having those models running locally on a machine. And then the system would be using those local models to process data and give insights. But there's that aspect of when you're using a third-party model like ChatGPT, there's that aspect of it will give you the latest features because it has the best professionals behind the development. So it will have the latest skills and the professional skill sets behind the development. But now, in terms of integrity and dependency and outages, models like ChatGPT tend to hallucinate. For example, if you give ChatGPT a lot of thread, it will get to a point whereby it will start hallucinating or giving you responses that are not within the context. And systems like ChatGPT are being used by billions of users at the same time. There's that limitation of compute, even if you are on a subscription. There's the technological limitation of the system, given it has billions of users. I just wanted an expert opinion from you if going local is a better, a more secured best practice alternative versus relying on third parties. And then the second question was there's a very good idea you presented about being able to track people from point of birth, and they can get a certificate automatically generated after 18 years. They will be 18 years, so they'll get an automatic certificate. And it's possible to to tell if there is no death certificate that has been issued, it means this person is still alive and is 18 years old.
Mm.
There is no certificate of nationality issued from another country, then this person will automatically get an ID. NEC has implemented a similar system whereby they are able to track a student from point of primary school up to the point of high school. I don't know if it's going up to university. Maybe this can still be integrated using so that people get index numbers uh, that are linked from point of inception in school. Now, that idea is very good, and maybe if you are not planning to use it or it was just a mention, I'd be open to see if I can maybe take off with it. I don't know.
Okay, okay. You have asked very many questions. This question of digital ID, we proposed that around 2012, just before the elections. It was one of the flagship projects that we had identified that a person at the time of birth is given a digital ID, and that is the ID that they stay with throughout their lives. Just like in America, you have the social security number, which is a unique number that identifies you for tax purposes, for all kinds of things. When you're caught by the police, that is the number that they look at. So a unique number that you will be identified with throughout your life until death. Even by the time you die, it is the same unique number that is used to generate your death certificate. And therefore, as you transition through all the other phases of life, you get married and you do all kinds of things. You become a criminal. It is the same number that is used. So when we type that number, we get everything about you. We see, of course, if we are allowed to see the other information, we see everything about you, where you went to school, and so on and so forth. As long as we are allowed to see that information. I was caught one day driving in the UK by the police. They stopped me. They asked me for my number. When I gave me my number, they told me, "Oh, you are the one who stays in this and this location, and in this house." It's all linked. So that number then gives you it lists link to everything in your life. Sorry, am I still connected? Somebody's trying to call me.
Yeah, you're still connected.
So that project is still active in government circles. There was an attempt to do it. Many people have looked at how Estonia has successfully used digital ID to integrate all kinds of systems in government. But for some reason, it seems to take forever. If the school system has done that, it's a question of integrating that with other systems to be able to track anybody from any part of their lives. I am not familiar with that one in the school system, but there are these. I'm very disappointed by this initiative of digital ID as a project, and it has taken forever to become a reality for whatever reason. And I'm sure there are many reasons why it has taken forever. Now, back to your question of, and I don't know what you mean by running with it. This is a huge system. You can only do a small portion of what needs to be done. Is it, do we use third-party models, AI models, or do we develop our own? And this is a question that we discussed many times as we were thinking about the AI strategy for the country. And we feel that we have a highly educated workforce in Kenya, and that is, to me, is a strength that we should exploit. And we have very innovative, particularly young people like yourselves. And that is, that is another strength that we have. Therefore, putting the two strengths together, we feel that we should develop our own AI models as much as possible. And this is a position we took. So that in a few years to come, we can have Kenya is one of the places where we have AI models that can be used by others across the globe. To me, that is the direction we should move. Of course, not everybody will use, will have the capability to develop local models, AI models. Those who can't can use third-party models, but they have their limitations, as you have mentioned. So for me, it would be I'm a proponent. I mean, I am a proponent of developing our own local solutions, including ERPs. A few years back, I asked students in one of the classes, why don't you come together and create an ERP for Kenya, which can be used for in other countries. I have not seen an ERP, a local ERP. I've seen some modules of ERPs developed by different local companies, but there isn't one complete ERP that has been put together. And if you look at the amount of money we spent, buying IFMIS and using IFMIS and the licenses we pay to Oracle and to the people who developed this system is colossal amounts of money, is billions of shillings and billions of dollars. Why can that money be paid to you guys, to young people like you guys, and we increase the productivity of this country and our GDP through this method? So I'm a strong believer in creating local solutions. That's the way I'll put it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any final question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Roman.
Yeah, I had many organizations in the country normally prefer systems from places like UK. Like I had, for example, Sanlam. There was a time Sanlam, when they were beginning, they procured a system from a local company that was working really well. But then later down the line, they opted to buy one from the UK, and even though that system wasn't performing as nicely as the local one, they decided to continue using it. So I'm wondering if many organizations in the country are like that, or it's just a special case.
No, it's not a special case. It's a widespread disease. I'll call it a disease because it comes from our colonization. Some people believe that unless it has come from UK and outside, that there is nothing nice in local. And I don't agree with that with that perspective. That a local company cannot develop. We are training you, and you can be able to develop similar kind of systems as those developed outside the country. Whenever we have taken our students abroad to do masters or PhD, they always come on top. They go and sit in a class in Europe, in whichever country, and our students are always on top. You guys have been doing exams for students in the US universities because you are seen to be sharp. So those students who are or graduates who are as good as you are and probably less than you are, capable than you are, why should we trust the systems that they create more than what we can create? I'll give you a small story and then I close. Around 1990 something, in the middle of the 90s, I tried to sell softwares that I had developed to PCB, a big organization, biggest bank. And when they evaluated my solution, It was on top of the rest of the solutions were global, from Europe, from the US. And they went to the reference sites which I had quoted where my solution was working. They went and found it was working. And therefore, the return from the evaluation was that we had won the bid, the tender. So the TCB had hired this guy from Europe, and he wanted a European solution. And they called me and one of my guys to a meeting. And they said, we are wondering which is this company, this local company that has done this system, and it seems to be working. But, and it seems to have won this tender. What do we do? And they said, well, if your procurement processes have indicated that this is the right solution, proceed and buy it from us. We said, but we are buying from an unknown company with unknown reputation, unknown everything. We said, well, it's up to you to make your decision, follow your processes and make your decision. And in the process, they said, we are taking a risk. Because I asked, where is the risk if the solution is working? They said, the risk is you guys can go down tomorrow, and then we don't have a support for our system. Then last ditch effort, I told him, I told these guys, I am willing to give you this system for free. If it doesn't work, then we lose. But if it works, you pay. And they said they agreed. And we changed the payment schedule to be paid. We had proposed a certain payment schedule depending on the modules we commissioned. And we went to implementation mode. After 3 weeks, 2 modules were working. This guy is called us and say, no, we will change the payment schedule. Let's use this payment schedule you had proposed. We are ready to pay for the modules that have been commissioned. And it took such an effort to get that system accepted, just because it was local. So that is how hard you have to fight as a local to get your solutions accepted. And it's a big challenge. But also people procure from outside because it is big money. In one of the organizations, we were to be replaced by a big ERP solution. And the only reason why our solution was to be replaced is because people wanted to eat 10%. Our solution is cheap. It's not as expensive like these ERP solutions that you get from outside. So the team from the organization wanted to change, largely because they wanted to eat 10% of the procurement. So this is another thing that pushes people to buy very expensive solutions, because they know there is something to be eaten, which is the cancer that we have to deal with as a nation. So these are challenges. I hope I have in very many words said what I answered the question that you asked.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Yes, Roman, thank you. I don't want to ask to ask. I mean to ask for more questions because our time is over. You need to go and have some lunch. So next week, please read around and finish your assignments, and then we pick it up from there the other week. Thank you very much. Thank you.